This is National Native News. I'm Antonia Gonzalez. South Dakota is one of more than a dozen states that has not expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act. As Roz Brown reports, a health professional says Medicaid could help improve services for the state's Native American population.
Nurse Margaret Moss has spent 30 years researching and educating the public about the health of Indigenous people. South Dakota has the fourth largest percentage of Native Americans in the U.S., with rates of death from heart disease, diabetes, pneumonia, and other causes that are significantly higher than non-Hispanic whites. And Moss says the numbers have been static for 3 decades.
People think American Indians are the past. They're not around anymore. And you don't have a very good understanding or view of the history or politics or culture of American Indians in a state, then you're not going to vote for things.
Governor Dennis Dugard appointed a coalition 4 years ago with the goal of improving health care for American Indians, but opposition from fellow GOP lawmakers led him to decide against applying for Medicaid expansion, and the coalition was disbanded last month. 30% of the 50,000 state residents who would qualify for expanded Medicaid are Native Americans. Moss says a huge obstacle for improving health care is patient misidentification, which is higher for American Indians than any other group.
So if the numbers are all wrong, we don't even really know what are the true death rates, what are the true cancer rates or admission rates, access rates. We don't know a whole lot because nobody asks or they guess.
Moss says the Federal Indian Health Service is chronically underfunded. She notes there are now 573 federally recognized U.S. tribes, but when addressing policymakers, she's found few are familiar with their own state's demographics.
Do you know the tribes that are there and what are they and whatever? And no one ever knows. Said if you don't know that, how can I even get to the intricacies of their specific problem?
The Indian Health Service is one of several agencies affected by the current government shutdown. I'm Roz Brown.
South Dakota Governor-elect Kristi Noem has picked the leader of the Sisseton-Wahpeton Oyate Nation to be the next Secretary of Tribal Relations, the Rapid City Journal reports. David Flute will reportedly finish out his chairmanship next week. Noem's office is touting his work on tribal economic initiatives, public safety, and health care. The Secretary and Tribal Relations Department works with the 9 tribes in the state on government-to-government relations and policy in a number of areas, including health, education, economic development, and social services. Inaugural ceremonies are scheduled for January 5th. The St. Regis Mohawk Tribe in New York has filed a lawsuit in federal court against opioid makers and distributors, claiming the prescription drug has devastating impacts on the community. The tribe claims an opioid epidemic has led to health effects and greatly impacts families, estimating opioid abuse and addiction has accounted for 85 to 90% of child welfare cases in the last 5 years. The lawsuit filed last week seeks to hold companies responsible for costs incurred in responding to the epidemic. Tribes across the country have filed similar lawsuits. Drug makers and pharmacies in other cases have filed motions to dismiss, claiming the failure to prove alleged harm. Human remains found in Lee County, New Mexico are expected to be turned over to the Mescalero Apache tribe. The Carlsbad Current-Argus reports they were found during construction on federal land, traditional territory of the tribe. In a December announcement by the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM intends to transfer possession of the remains to the tribe. I'm Antonia Gonzalez.
National Native News is produced at the Annenberg National Native Voice Studios by Kawanak Broadcast Corporation. Funding is by Odawi Law Group, provider of Indian law solutions, and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, with support from the Public Radio Satellite System.
Support by Canyon Records, producer of Native American music, including R. Carlos Nakai's million-selling Canyon Trilogy. All Canyon titles available from iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, and CanyonRecords.com. Support by BNSF Railway Company. BNSF honors the commitment of armed forces members and is a top employer for U.S. military veterans, hiring over 9,000 veterans since 2005. More at jobs.bnsf.com.
Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.